I was recently at a gun shop, and they had this display of various firearms from around the world. And it got me thinking about what are the most silent weapons in modern warfare? Because a lot of people think that, oh, if I just get a suppressor, then my rifle is going to be quiet. But there's a lot more to it than that. So let's talk about the actual silent weapons in modern warfare. But first, suppressors aren't really silencers. They just reduce the report of a firearm by a tremendous amount, but they don't make it silent. And a lot of people will say, well, the gunshot is the bullet being fired. That's true. The gunshot is the bullet being fired, but it is also the rapid expansion of gas behind that bullet that creates the pressure wave that we hear as a gunshot. So what makes a weapon truly silent? Well, it's a weapon that doesn't rely on the ignition of powder behind the bullet to propel it forward. The most common example is something like a bow and arrow. You can also include things like a crossbow, which is basically a firearm without any ignition source. It's still a projectile being shot through a barrel, but because there's no ignition of powder, it's relatively silent. Another example would be something like a compressed air rifle or an air bow. These use pressurized air to propel the bullet, and while it's not exactly silent, it's much quieter than a traditional firearm. You can also go with a full auto weapon and just not fire it in full auto. Seriously, guys, it takes so much more training and skill to be a good marksman with a semi-auto rifle than it does with a full auto rifle, because you have to control your breathing, control your heartbeat, everything like that. Whereas with a full auto weapon, you just put it on the target and rip. You don't have to worry about your heartbeat or anything like that. So, it takes a lot more skill to be a good marksman with a semi-auto rifle. And we actually had a World War II sniper who was incredibly skilled with a semi-auto rifle. He was known for his ability to make very long shots with great accuracy. And he was actually killed by a Japanese sniper in combat. But I digress. We're talking about silent weapons. So another example would be something like a throwing knife or a dart. These are silent because they don't have a projectile being shot through a barrel. They're just thrown by hand. Of course, you can also go with the old classic, which is just to use your fists. Hand-to-hand combat is something that every soldier should be trained in, even if they're not in the infantry. But when it comes to modern warfare, there's a lot more to it than just being quiet. You also need to be aware of a lot of soldiers who go on patrol will wear civilian clothes. This makes them less likely to be targeted by enemy forces, because they blend in with the civilian population. Camouflage is another important factor. Soldiers who are camouflaged are less likely to be detected by the enemy. This is why soldiers often wear uniforms that are designed to blend in with their... Stealth is also an important consideration. Stealth is often used to sneak up on the enemy or to avoid being detected. For example, some soldiers will use stealth to set up an ambush. As technology continues to develop, we'll likely see more silent and effective weapons used in modern warfare. But for now, these are some of the quietest options available to modern soldiers.